Hi everyone, as promised, here's my thoughts on the first day of Royal Ascot so far. Obviously we'll get the final entries or final declarations for these tomorrow, and then we'll have another look. Excuse me, that's the fluid just preventing me from breathing for a few seconds there. If you're not sure what I'm on about there, watch my previous video. First race is the Queen Anne Stakes, and you can see that on our early ratings that pro members get access to. Baaeed is clear top rated as expected. What is he? He's 2 to 7, isn't he? Something really short. Let me just pause the video. He is 2 to 7 at biggest, 1 to 4 in places. You know, what against him? Are any of the others really good Group 1 horses? No. It's a really disappointing Group 1. I think, well, is it a disappointing Group 1, or is it just that Baaeed is so good that he makes other good Group 1 horses look average? I'd be very surprised if this is one of those bankers that gets turned over. You normally get one at Royal Ascot, 1 or 2, but I can't imagine it's going to be Baaeed. I think he's very good, and I think he wins this quite comfortably personally. I tried to look at something, you know, against him maybe each way, and I just couldn't find who I thought it could be. I guess on our ratings, Real World has achieved some good figures here. This 166.3 would be good enough for second. 170 clearly good enough for second. The 163.2 isn't far off, so probably Real World would be the best each way shot in the race. But I'll just watch it and see how far Baaeed wins by. I'm sure there'll be people doing these distance bets, and also accumulators. You know, there's a couple later on. Coribus potentially could be in those multiples. So yeah, I think Baaeed wins that. Real World's the each way, but it's just a race to watch and hope that Baaeed really is as good as he's looked, and can really put himself up there and get appreciated. That I don't really think he is just yet. So moving on, obviously I can't show you the ratings for all of the races because they're for professional members, so we'll just talk about the horses in the future races. And I've had a look at the Coventry Stakes, watched Blackbeard, Little Big Bear, Noble Style, Persian Force, Age of Kings and Bradsell, and I thought Blackbeard looks very professional. I think he's the one I would have had favourite. They've actually just flip-flopped recently, with Persian Force becoming the favourite. I'm not as keen on Persian Force, to be honest. I thought his form with Redemption Time ties it in less impressively with Noble Style. I thought Noble Style is better. Apologies, I had to just quickly make a change to my video there, so you couldn't see the ratings. So if you go back, you'll actually see where some of these horses have come out on the early ratings. But I was talking about, I thought Noble Style's defeat of Redemption Time was better, and it was stronger for me than what Persian Force had done. And yeah, I just felt that Persian Force wasn't the right favourite here. I think Noble Style was better than Persian Force, and I was really impressed with Blackbeard, to be honest, with his wins at the Curragh, especially last time out. I thought he quickened really impressively. He looks strong, and he looks very much like he knows what he's doing. I think he's very professional, whereas the other and Aidan O'Brien horse that's getting a bit of support, Little Big Bear, I think he's learning. I still think he's learning on the job. I thought he was very good over 5 last time. He was more settled. He still had his head out to the side, but he finished really strongly, and I would prefer to see him in one of the 5 furlong races rather than the 6. I think they can go very close with Blackbeard in this 6, and I think Little Big Bear would win the 5. If they run them both in the 6, I think they could end up, you know, reducing the chances of winning both races. The other horse that definitely was interesting here was Age of Kings. I thought when he ran at Naas, it was a bit of a messy race. He was very slow at the front, nothing happened, and he just got out-kicked late on. But although the favourite came past him, he didn't give up, and I thought that was very... he looks a very tough horse, Age of Kings, and I expect him to run here. I think this is the only race he's got at the moment. and I think he'll make the running. And if he makes the running and Blackbeard can sit behind him, I think that will set up really nicely for Blackbeard. And there's no point running Little Big Bear in it as well. One of the strong British horses looks to be Bradsell. That said, what did he beat at York? That would be a concern. And also, whereas the others in their races were quickening and looking really progressive and strong at the finish, Bradsell he was running quicker than the others, but it didn't look like he was going that well, and his legs weren't, they weren't rapid or anything. It just looked quite a tough race, even on the good to soft ground at York. So he wouldn't be the one that I'd be that keen on. I do like Blackbeard. I think I expect him to go off favourite if he runs. Age of Kings, I'd like to see him run and set it up for Blackbeard. And of the two, out of Persian Force and Noble Style, I think Noble Style is the better one there. Moving on to the next race, which was the King's Stands. I've had a look at Golden Pow, I've had a look at Man of Promise, and I've had a look at Nature Strip. And I think this is going to be fast, first of all. This is going to be really fast. I think Nature Strip and Golden Power are both going to be at the front. But I think Golden Power is slightly faster early on, which I think will actually suit Nature Strip. I think it will suit him perfectly. I think Golden Power is going to go blasting out, and it's going to be so fast that it's like, can he hang on at the finish? And I just think Nature Strip could be very, very good as well, and might be able to be good enough to go with him early on and then have the strength at the finish to go past him. Man of Promise, he looked very good over in Maidan and was running well over 6 furlongs. He finished third recently in a Group 1 when he arguably travelled best of all. The concern would be this would be his first time over 5. I mean, previously when he was running, he finished second to Mum's Tipple before Mum's Tipple went and won that race at York. How many years ago that was now? Very impressively. And Man of Promise was then running over, you can see at Yarmouth, over 7 furlongs. To now potentially be dropping down to 5, I just think they might burn him off early on. The speed they're going to go here, this isn't going to be a fast 5 furlongs. This is going to be a very fast 5 furlongs. They're going to go absolutely mental early on. And if you don't have that speed to keep up, I think you're going to be in so much trouble early on that regardless of whether you stay a bit further, you're not going to be able to peg them back. So I think this race will be dominated by the overseas raiders. I think Golden Power will make most of the running, and I think Nature Strip will just sneak past him late on. Moving on to the St James's Palace Stakes. This is one for the multiples, I think. Coribus 1 to 2 in places. I think he wins. Looking at the previous history of this race, if you haven't run in the Guineas, you can still win this race. But generally, I think the trainer who does this the best is John Gosden, and his horse this year is Mighty Ulysses. Mighty Ulysses got beaten a handicap. Maybe if he'd run in a conditions race somewhere and he'd won, then I might be looking at Mighty Ulysses as a definite, a potential danger to Coribus. But he got beaten a handicap. I don't think he's good enough to beat Coribus, and I think the others will know that they, if we were good enough, we would have probably turned up in a Guineas somewhere. They haven't, and I don't think anything's going to beat Coribus, to be honest. The next race is the Ascot Stakes over 2 mile 3, and this is a race I actually really like. I think because I've got slightly more National Hunt interest than flat interest. Seeing the National Hunt horses running here is always good fun. For me, there's a few trainers you obviously need to look out for here. Definitely Willie Mullins, Ian Williams, and even Nicky Henderson. Nicky Henderson had a runner 2 years ago. He finished second for Dana Bleu. She finished second for Dana Bleu. And I actually think for Dana Bleu should have won that day. And I think they come back this year with a horse who's got a real good chance here. With a horse with no name. But let's talk over the few that are towards the head of the market at the moment. We start off with Bring on the Night, who we obviously know finished 4th in the Supreme and then 5th in the Grade 1 at Punchestown. whilst Willie Mullins comes to this race and he doesn't always look like he sent his strongest, you know, he could have sent Dysart Dynamo, for example, a proper Grade 1 horse. Last year I think he had MC Muldoon, who's not top class over hurdles at all, and yet he still finished second. So I don't think you need to be top class, or Willie Mullins' horses don't need to be top class to run well and win these races. I think some of the other trainers, they do generally have to be some of their better horses to actually do it on the flat, but Willie Mullins seems to have the knack of getting his 5th, 6th, 7th string to run really well on the flat, particularly at Royal Ascot. And Bring on the Night can't be ignored. You know, his win at Naas was very impressive. They thought he was an outside chance in the Supreme Novice. He wasn't good enough. But it's just one of these horses that Willie can get to run really big races on the flat. Behind him in the market is Pied Piper, who finished 3rd in the Triumph. Now, I don't think that form's as strong. I know that's a big phrase when we've got Vauban and Phil Dore, but I don't think that form was as strong as the Supreme Novice. And personally, I think Bring on the Night will beat Pied Piper here. I think Willie Mullins just knows what he's doing with flat horses, or horses running on the flat. I'm not as keen on Gordon Elliott trying it. So I would favour Bring on the Night over Pied Piper. Not a lot, but you know they're priced accordingly as well towards the head of the market. If we have a look at a couple of those with flat form, Arcadian Sunrise and Coltrane, they were 2nd and 4th. Excuse me. They were 2nd and 4th in the Chester Cup. Coltrane finished 2nd, but crucially I think for Coltrane, he got the run of the race. Absolute run of the race. Beautiful trip through, and still was beaten by Cleveland. Whereas I don't think Arcadian Sunrise got the best run at all. He was very keen for a lot of the race under Jamie Spencer, and then Jamie and Ryan got into a bit of an argument a couple of times, kept going for the same gap. Ryan was the stronger on Cleveland. Ryan got the gaps. Jamie didn't on Arcadian Sunrise, and that probably cost him getting a lot closer. I think it's a very good jockey booking in Harry Davies, takes £5 off, and I think Arcadian Sunrise can reverse that form with Coltrane. That's from the flat horses, generally the horses that have been running on the flat. The other horse I'm quite keen on, and I think will go really well, is this A Horse with No Name. It does have a name, that is the name of A Horse with No Name. Her form was good. I think her form behind Love Envoy was very good. That's Grade 1 form. I think her form behind Nina the Terrier was good form over hurdles. Recently, 2 runs on the flat, has now qualified for this or will get in due to winning. Ryan Moore was booked to ride both times. You know, she's very progressive and she's very strong at the finish. Now, obviously, we have to take into account Ryan's going to be riding Bring on the Night for Willie Mullins, and you'd be thinking that Ryan might have had a slight say there, whether he doesn't have to ride the Willie Mullins horse. But Nicky's gone big. He's gone for William Buick still. He's not gone for a small jockey. He's not even gone for a claimer. He's gone for a jockey that he thinks can get A Horse with No Name into a good position here. And I think A Horse with No Name is got a really big chance here. You can get about 10s for A Horse with No Name, and I think that's, you know, I don't think there's a lot between a lot of these at the top. I did look at Proshima as well. Has some nice form on the flat. I just wonder whether the Northumberland Plate might be a better option for Proshima. But if I was to pick 2 as it stands, I would look at Bring on the Night, because Willie Mullins can do whatever he wants with his 5th, 6th, 7th choice horses, and A Horse with No Name. So Nicky Henderson and Willie Mullins is the 2 trainers there that I like with horses that I think have got big chances. Moving on to the Wolferton Stakes, there's 3 I've had a look at here, and 2 of them were previous winners. Dave won this in 2019. I think he wants soft ground, but I think there was a good prep last time out when finishing 3rd. That wouldn't have been his target. This will be his target. Interestingly though, you can see we don't have a jockey booking yet for this race, but we do for the race on the 15th. What is that? Just have a quick check. Oh, of course I've logged out. I'll just pause the video. That's for the Prince of Wales Stakes, the Group 1, and I do wonder whether that's where they'll end up. Do they really want to just keep winning listed races? I think they think Adabe is a Group 1 horse, and if they obviously get some rain, it will certainly enhance his chances. Last year's winner was Juan Elcano, who just simply won't be leading. He tried to lead at Sandown, that was purely a prep race. Won't be leading. Andrea Etzeni back on board. He's going to go well, and you know, for last year's winner, you can get 11s, 10s, 9s. You know, that's not a bad price at all. If there's a horse that I think could be a little bit underestimated, it's Mohafeth. And this is all down to what they do with Mohafeth in terms of where they run him. Surely it's got to be here, over this trip. He's much better over this trip. Last time out, I think you can ignore that run. Slowly away, run over just shy of 1 mile. This is just shy of 1 mile 2. Better trip for him. Does have some good form at Ascot. Has won at Ascot, as you can see, winning the, I think it was the Hampton Court last year, over the same course and distance. I really like Mohafeth, and I think, you know, you can see that Mohafeth is the unknown one. Some places go 12s, 10s, 6s, and you can get 9 to 2 as well in some places. I think if Mohafeth runs here, I think Mohafeth can go really, really well here. And he would be my early thoughts for that race. I don't know, I'm just going to pause the video again, just quickly check something. So I was just checking to see whether Jim had a ride in the race, and he's currently booked up on Majestic Dawn, who we won on at Goodwood in good style. If Mohafeth turns up here, then obviously I would imagine Jim would switch. And this is where Mohafeth's got to run. And the fact that it's a William Haggas horse, who he did win this race with Adabe a few years ago before going back into Group 1 company, it could be something they try with Mohafeth. Having finished 6th recently over a mile at York, it would seem a bit foolish to be stepping into Group 1 company and potentially just bottoming your horse already this early on in the season. Drop down in class, win a race at Royal Ascot, and then start working your way back up over the correct trip. The final race I wanted to have a quick look at, because a lot of these are also entered in that Ascot Stakes, is the 1 mile 6 Copper Horse Handicap. And there's 2 in this that caught my eye at bigger prices. So obviously Cleveland, if he turns up, we think he's a group horse, probably running in a handicap still. Bring on the Night, Pied Piper, both could run in that Ascot Stakes. The 2 at bigger prices that I'm interested in are Raymond Tusk at 33s. I think he's got some good form. He has got some good form at Ascot. Finished 2nd on Heavy Going behind Quickthorn. This, I think, is his trip, the 1 mile 6. Just in the back of my mind, I have wonder whether they've got the Ebor plan in mind. And they don't, you know, this is a good race to win, but the Ebor's even better to win. Talking of the Ebor, go and watch John Leaper's run in the Ebor trial today. I thought that was very interesting. But I think Raymond Tusk could be one that they aim at the Ebor. So it'd be interesting to see his race here. The other horse who I think would have a chance here is On to Victory. Hasn't been performing to his best recently, but does have some good Ascot form. Certainly runs well in handicaps, and I just think he's now down to a mark that he could be very interesting off. Alan King has booked to Jim Crowley, which is obviously a good jockey booking. He has had the prep run at York when he stayed on quite nicely. And yeah, I'll be quite interested in On to Victory at the moment. So there's some early thoughts about Royal Ascot. Really sorry about my voice. I can hear it, that I can, you know, it's coming out terrible. I hope it's coming out clear enough on the video. So there's some thoughts. I think just if we quickly go over it, Bade wins the first. I'd like to think Blackbeard takes all the beating in the second. I think Nature Strip will beat Golden Pow. I think Caribus wins the St James's Palace. This race, I'd like to see a horse with no name and Bring on the Night battle it out at the finish, the 2 National Hunt horses. The Wolf Return, I think Mohafeth is the interesting one at a big price. And then the Copper Horse, I think there's 2 at big prices, Raymond Tusk and On to Victory at this current stage. Thanks for listening, and good luck with all your bets this week at Royal Ascot.